students. So today we are going to learn about an essay. It's called What is Enlightenment by Emmanuel Kant. Now, talking about Immanuel Kant, you can see that Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher and one of the central Enlightenment thinkers. Now, when hearing about the word enlightenment, you will be confused as to what it is. The Age of Enlightenment is also known as the Age of Reason, or simply the Enlightenment, which was an intellectual and philosophical movement that dominated Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries, and it had wide global influence. The Enlightenment included a range of ideas centered on the value of human happiness. What is the base of human happiness? Okay, the pursuit of knowledge, how you can search for knowledge obtained by means of reason and the evidence of each and every sense of perception. There is also several other ideas about liberty, progress, fraternity, constitutional government, separation of the church and the state, and etc. and so on forth. Okay, so here you can see that the Age of Enlightenment questioned the basic philosophical notions of what is knowledge and how it can be pursued, what is happiness, how you can pursue happiness, and so forth. Now, the full name or the full title of the essay is Answering the Question, What is Enlightenment? It is often referred to simply as What is Enlightenment, and it is an essay which is written in 1784 by the philosopher Immanuel Kant. In December 1784, the publication of the Berlinische Monatsschrift in the Berlin Monthly, which was edited by Friedrich Gedig and Johann Erich Beister, Kant replied to the question which was posed an year earlier by Reverend Johann Friedrich Zollner, who was also an official in the Prussian government. So, this essay is actually a reply to one of the questions that was put forward by Reverend Johann Friedrich Zollner, who was an official in the Prussian government. Now, Zollner's question was addressed to a board of intellectual public community in reply to the Beister's essay entitled Proposal not to engage the clergy any longer when marriages are conducted. So you can see during this time there was always some kind of a conflict between religion and the people. So here there was an essay which was written by Beister in his Berlin Monthly, which was titled Proposal not to engage the clergy any longer when marriages was conducted. Now Zollner replied to this particular essay, and one of this particular essay was replied again by Kant. Okay, so here you can see after the publication of the essay by Beister, there was a number of leading intellectuals who replied with different essays. And Kant's essay becomes the most famous and the most impactful essay even now. Kant's opening paragraph is often quoted as the most cited definition for the lack of enlightenment as people's inability to think for themselves due not to lack of intellect but lack of courage. People are not enlightened because they lack courage. That's what Kant says at the beginning of his essay. Now, Kant's essay also addressed the causes of a lack of enlightenment and the preconditions necessary to make it possible for people to enlighten themselves. He also says why there are lack for enlightenment, and he says how it can be solved, preconditions which are necessary to make it possible for the people to enlighten themselves. He held it necessary that all church and state paternalism be abolished and people be given the freedom to use their own intellect. Now he says that enlightenment means the rational thinking, the thinking by which the people can understand the value of rational thinking as well as reason. Okay, so here he says that the church and the state should be abolished and people should be asked to maintain a decree or maintain a way in which they can use this rational thinking and reason for their own benefit. Now, Kant praised Frederick II of Prussia for creating these preconditions. He focused on the religious issues, saying that our rulers had less interest in telling citizens what to think in regard to artistic and scientific issues. Still now also there is a group of people who are marginalized and who just nod their head for the government appraisal. They don't think anything. If the petrol is hiked, petrol value is hiked, yet they will be nodding their head. Okay, it doesn't matter for us, we will pay for it. Nothing matters for them. They are not thinking rationally, they are not thinking about a reason, or they are not thinking about anything. It means that they are not concerned with the state. They are not concerned with the welfare of the state of society in which they are living in. Okay. Now, you can see about Kant's definition of enlightenment. Now, Kant says that in the definition of enlightenment, it is the emergence from self-inflicted immaturity. Every person is immature, and you can see that there is a self-inflicted immaturity in each and every individual through which these individuals are living. They are having a certain kind of immaturity. When a teacher is teaching a particular theory in the class, when the teacher is saying some critical notes about some Shakespearean drama, the students, they will be nodding their head, they will be, of course, they will not be questioning anything that the teacher is saying. That means they are self-imposing a kind of immaturity in them. Now, immaturity, according to Kant, is the inability to use one's own reason without external guidance. It is the way in which a person is able to use his own reason in order to maintain the value. Okay. Now, self-inflicted immaturity, often due to laziness and cowardice of the individuals. There is a self-inflicted immaturity in many of the citizens because they feel that they are lazy or they are having no courage to fear or no courage to face the world. The motto of the lazy is separate out. So that is what Kant says. Kant says that the motto for the lazy is separate out. It means dare to know. The lazy, the people who are lazy, they should be enlightened, and for that they should have to have this quest of knowledge, the dare or the courage to know, and is also translated as dare to know things, or even more loosely as dare to be wise. You should be wise enough. How? You should be wise to question the authority upon you. You should be wise to question whatever is happening around you. So, you should have to know whatever is happening around your society. So, that is the dare to know. Now, Kant answers the question in the first sentence of the essay. Now, the title is What is Enlightenment, right? So here Kant is answering the question of the title. Enlightenment is man's emergence from self-incurred immaturity. He argues that immaturity is self-inflicted, not from a lack of understanding but from the lack of courage to use one's reason, intellect and wisdom without the guidance of another. Now Kant argued that using one's reason is considered dangerous by most men and all women. He says that most of the men, they do not want to use their reason. He is saying that most of the men, they do not want to use their reason because they feel that they are somebody who should be dominated by a certain kind of people who are having higher intellect than them. And in the case of women, there is a kind of marginalization in the women. The women are dependent on the men who are always suppressing them. So without the suppressor, they feel very lazy or cowardice. So here, most men and all women, they are having this kind of self-inflicted immaturity in them. He explains or he exclaims that the motto of the enlightenment is sapere aude. That means dare to know. Now next, you can see that Kant proposes a categorical imperative of thinking. He is a person who says that there should be a categorical imperative of thinking. A person should think about himself, about how he should have to behave in the society. A person, if he is a wild human being, he will have a certain kind of characters which will not be there for him when he is in a society. Therefore, he should have to think about himself in aloneness or aloofness, alienation. Okay, so here Kant proposes a categorical imperative of thinking. He says that examine yourself whether any particular idea, reason and rule can be generalized. This should free us from the superstitions as well as from the prejudices that we have against the society. So here a categorical imperative of thinking means that the person who is thinking should think about the prejudices and the superstitions associated in the society. He should always think about himself. He should think above himself actually. He should think about the society in which he lives. He should think, examine yourself based on the intellect and reason that you have. And how do you develop this intellect and reason? It's due to the experience that you are having. If you are 30 years old and you don't have a voice, that means that you are not having any kind of maturity. If you are 20 years old and you don't have your own opinion in the society, that means that you are showing a kind of immaturity. Self-inflicted immaturity is there within you. You don't want to be a part of the society. You feel that the reason or the way in which you are talking will make others think, oh, what a person that is. And that is why you are having this self-inflicted immaturity within you. So, this is only the first aspect. The first aspect of gaining enlightenment is self-emancipation. To emancipate yourself. Okay. There is another one aspect which is called the second aspect, which is the political or social emancipation. So in order to get enlightenment, the first thing you should have to do is you should have self-emancipation. The second one is you should have to have the political or social emancipation. And you can see sometimes immaturity is due to shackles imposed by the society. Some kind of shackles is imposed upon by the society. There is a lack of political freedom. Have you heard the story of a master who always enslaved his slaves, so much so that a group of slaves, they revolted against him and they sought for freedom. But a particular slave, after gaining freedom, he did not know what he should do with the freedom, because he was always pleasurizing himself in this self-imposed immaturity. There itself you can see the tale of a dog which accompanied a fox. The dog was always given biscuits and milk by the master. The fox, it always wanted to hunt the master's hens. Therefore, one day the fox told this dog to elope and come with him to the jungle. This dog went with the fox to the jungle, and he did not know how to hunt because he was relishing himself on the biscuits and milk. So, he did not know what he has to do with the freedom that was imposed on him, because he was having the self-inflicted immaturity in him. So that is how we can compare ourselves also. There is a self-inflicted immaturity because you have a self-inflicted fetters or prison that was imposed to you by the government. The political freedom is not there. There is always dictatorship and the social and religious inhibitions. That means the religious tyranny and the ideologies that we are facing in day-to-day life. It makes us incapable to use our freedom and reason. So here you can see the freedom to use one's reason, not political revolution, allows an entire public to enlighten itself. So an entire public is enlightening itself, and there you can see that for the self-inflicted freedom or the self-inflicted immaturity, you have to overthrow that immaturity, and for that you have to use one's reason, not of the revolutionary spirit, but also to enlighten oneself. Now, in the sense used here, the German word unmündigt does not mean having attained age of maturity or legal adulthood. Literally translated is non-mouthed or having a voice to raise. It does not have a voice to raise. It also means it is dependent or unfree, and another word is tutelage. Tutelage means the condition of not being of an age, showing a kind of immaturity. Now Kant, whose moral philosophy is centered on the concept of autonomy, distinguishes between a person who is intellectually autonomous and one who keeps himself or herself in an intellectually heteronomous, that is dependent and immature state. An autonomous person is a person who can think about himself. He has his own rules. But in the case of a heteronomous individual, there is always some kind of a dependency or an immature state in the person. Now, the private use of reason is restricted for such people. In professional functions, they do not have any words to say. They think that the disobedience would destroy their order. It does not hinder, or they did not want to stop the public enlightenment. The public use of reason must be free. In learning and in reading public, it helps in the enlightenment. So here, the private use of reasons are being mentioned here. Okay. The next one is third aspect. So first you said about self-emancipation. Secondly, you said about the societal emancipation. And the third one is the cultural emancipation. Now, what is cultural emancipation? It is not a one-off unique effort. The immaturity, the process of emergence from the immaturity, it is always a historical process. On a personal level, you have already learned that it is separate or they. On societal level, it is education and the cultural progress and the use of private reason. And the third one is the cultural emancipation. With it, you have the obstruction of political and cultural progress would be against the human nature. There is always the progress which is against the human nature. Test for laws and decrees which can be imposed on a group of people. There is a certain group of laws or a certain set of roles that has to be imposed on the people in order to make them feel belittled. Would a people impose such a law or decree upon itself? No, it is by the generation. The older generation is imposing certain kind of rules and laws on us. It is impermissible to agree, even for a single lifetime, to a permanent religious constitution which no one might publicly question. Now, when you renounce enlightenment, you can say that you have to shake off ignorance, increase in the empirical knowledge, either for one's own person or for later generations. It would be a violation of the sacred rights of human. So you feel that you have to be mature, you feel that something is sacred within you, that is why you are not shaking off the particular enlightenment that is coming within you. Now, Kant understands the majority of people to be content to follow the guiding institutions of the society, such as the church and the monarchy, and they are unable to throw off this particular yoke. Yoke means the particular machinery, the compressed machinery that is making them stifle the yoke of their immaturity due to a lack of resolution to be autonomous. They don't want to be autonomous. That is why there is a lack of resolution, a thinking to be autonomous. You should always think rationally, you should always think autonomously, and then only you can have this kind of an emancipation through which you can attain enlightenment. It is difficult for individuals to work their way out of their immature, cowardly life because we are so uncomfortable with the idea of thinking for ourselves. Kant says that even if we did throw off the spoon-fed dogma and formulas we have absorbed, we would be stuck because we have never cultivated our minds. Even a person, when you see that a girl and a boy is walking together, some kind of a cultural mindset within you will spark out and think, oh, they may be girlfriend and boyfriend, they may be working against the society, they may be having a relationship. Why is it so? You have not cultivated your mind. When you cultivate your mind, then you can understand that you are not stuck, you are not absorbed in that particular dogma and the rules that are imposed upon you by the society. There you can free yourself. Okay. Now for that you have to have the perfectibility of thought. From monarch to people, you have to think that the monarch's thought will not be applied to you. You have your own different thoughts. Okay, a monarch has no right to impose a halt in the enlightenment process on his people. He is the person who is always imposing certain kind of rules on the people and hindering the thought process of the people. Now here, a monarch does not have the right to impose such a halt or such a stop in the enlightenment process. The monarch's legislative authority rests on the will of the people. You should be able to think that you are the person who makes a monarch a monarch. Without the people, a monarch is not a monarch. He might be a simple human being. Okay, a group of people or a group of thoughts or a group of slaves will make a monarch a monarch. Okay. Next one is the rejection of censorship. You should have the courage to reject the censorship of the prominent ideas that are being imposed on you. You should have to think rationally about what is happening around. Now, next question that you have is, does Kant live in an enlightenment age? No, but he is living in a place or in a time period in which there can be an age of enlightenment. And Kant here warns others around him or the others who are succeeding him to enlighten themselves by the ideas that he is writing in this essay. So with this essay, we are coming to an end. So thank you so much. Now after this, please go through the essay, you can understand it fully. Thank you.